Hey, Travell, what are you dressed for? A wedding? Travell, unmute.
Hey, Marty, how you doing? No,
Okay,
that's my professional picture for when I'm not on.
I'm wondering whose wedding you're going to,
No,
man.
no, that's my professional, attire this is attire.
You must have something good to tell us then.
Oh, hey.
Oh man.
I hope everybody's doing good.
Put it this way: if you could see our face, we're probably healthy.
Yes.
There's old Maria. She's ready to go. Most of these people don't have themselves unmuted.
No, I'm not. I'm not
There
ready.
you go. There you
I
go.
just finished working out.
Oh, Clem, God damn it. Jesus Christ.
Who's that?
Clem.
You like that, huh? I'm listening to the school board too. Boca Raton South District school board members are talking about next year. All right, I'll go on mute.
There you go. There you go. You want to compete with that?
You look like a bank robber.
Yeah. Maybe we are. Bob, you gotta unmute.
I did.
No, Clem.
I'm listening to the school district, Frank Barberi.
Oh, okay. Well, you better give us some good news then, God darn it.
Thank you, and thank you, and thank you. This is important.
You don't look that guy who's got Bernard Arnett's name. That ain't no Bernard Arnett, man.
How do you know?
Who that?
It's Bob.
Hey, Bob. How are you, bud?
Good. I don't know why, but I sign in, it always comes under Bernard.
Well, that ain't a good thing.
How's everybody doing today?
Hey, it is Roosevelt.
All right, all right.
Roosevelt, you got your head cut off.
Okay, let me stop.
There you go. Woo! There you go.
All righty.
Oh boy, I'll tell you.
Good to see you, Roosevelt.
All right, what's up, Bob?
Roosevelt, I've been working out with Gary Nasky. He's right down the door from where you work.
You're muting. Unmute yourself, Roosevelt. There you go.
I said, Gary lives over there?
Gary is about 50 yards away from you.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
I told him that you work right nearby.
Yeah, yep.
Hey, Bob, you just fixed it. Bob, you fixed it.
I got it ready, didn't I?
You did, man. Now we know who you are.
Took me about an hour.
Oh. Hey, Bruce, I never heard you so quiet. Unmute, unmute. Unmute. Lower left-hand corner, unmute. There you go.
What's up, man, Bruce?
How's it going?
Okay, how's it going with you?
Oh, as well as can be.
Yeah,
Probably like everyone else, ready to get back to whatever normality is going to be sooner or later.
let's first define what normal is and we'll be okay.
Hey, I don't know. We hope so. But
Hey, Bruce, I just sent you something in Travell, the AYFL thing. Just info for the Broward County youth program. We got 2 Miami-Dade and 2 Palm Beach. I sent it to your email, sent it to Travell and
okay.
a couple other youth guys up here, just so you guys know what's going on with the other youth organizations.
Just out of curiosity, are they planning on having football?
It's spelled out in the email. It's still up in the air.
Yeah, that's where most places are. I will tell you that I saw where I have a brother in Pittsburgh, and he was his son plays. His son is 12 years old. They canceled their season.
Wow.
Now that's just his particular league. That's not everyone. So
What's happening in Wellington with the flag, with the youth flag?
you got me. You got me. I really don't know. That's not something I'm involved with. That's Mike Apolero.
Okay.
I can tell you other things. Nothing's going on up this way. The only thing, there's been some adult cash tournaments, flag tournaments that have gone on north of here, not in Palm Beach County. They have no real sense of guidelines to follow. I took the time and effort to contact a lot of different places concerning their guidelines for reopening. And one of them, which I'll share with you guys, was the National Federation High School in conjunction with, I think the acronym is SMAC, if I'm correct. And it is Sports Medicine Athletic Commission, I believe it's called. And their guidelines are pretty damn stringent. And if schools are going to follow their guidelines, feel pretty comfortable in believing that there's probably not going to be much football this year.
Well, I really don't give a shit what you think, Bruce.
I know you don't, but you know what? I love you too, Pookie. How are you?
I'm here. Living the dream, waiting for Travell to spew out some incredible words of wisdom. I mean, if any poor bastard should not have been elected, he has a pay increase in 1 year and then a pandemic in the next. The poor guy.
I've had it all. I've had it all.
I mean,
Murphy's Law.
Richard Nixon had a better presidency. Travell, I don't know how that's smiling, buddy.
Hey, it's by the grace of our God.
Hi there, Travell. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi,
We'll get started a little bit. We'll allow everybody to get in, but we'll get started soon.
Oh, Campbell, did you really do that?
At least it's backwards.
Goddamn, Demetrius, could you get a little more comfortable?
Hey man, hopefully y'all won't put me to sleep, man. But if you do, I'm already.
I mean, I'm still having nightmares of Paul Compton laying in bed last meeting. Now you?
Oh, just trying to be a little comfortable. That's all. What's up, Bruce?
What's up, Bruce?
How the hell is everybody? Where you been, man?
Very good.
Look at you sitting at the beach. Drinking martinis or what?
Oh, I wish I was at the beach. I actually am going later. It's just the background I have.
I kind of figured that, man. It still works, though.
Thank you.
It still works. You doing all right?
Doing good, man. Can't complain. Doing good.
Yeah,
Hey,
good.
Greg, with that hat, you look like you just came back from Tulsa.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I was out there leading the pack, man.
Oh, here we
Your
go.
name ain't Bruce. Your name ain't Greg. I said Greg,
Lead the
not
pack.
Bruce. That's
He
it.
was look, hey, they had our president. I just saw an interview with the president, and they were asking him if he had actually asked that the testing be slowed down, and he refused to answer the question. He skirted around it. He did say there's going to be another stimulus package that comes out. He wouldn't say the amount, and he did say it would be bipartisan. It'll probably be in the next couple of weeks. So time will tell. You know, it is what it is. Still wearing that hat, boy. Johnny boy.
Hello there. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. What about yourself?
All right.
Everything
Like Chris,
going
you
okay?
gained some weight.
Put your video on, Johnny boy.
Johnny said he's drinking beer. He doesn't want everybody to see him.
Hello, all.
Hello. We're going to get started in just a minute or so. I'm just going to allow for a few minutes for everyone to get in.
Hey, Travell.
Yes, sir.
Once everybody's in and you close it out, so if they're late, they can't access?
Yeah, please.
I can, but if they come late, because I have it set where I have to, admit them into the room. So if they come too late, then I won't. But we're not at that point. We're being very flexible.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Just a reminder to those I know that were not here at our last meeting. How we take attendance is by typing your name in the chat box at the bottom. So if you want to take a few minutes to type your name in the chat box. Excuse me, that's my dog. So type your name in the chat box to get credit for the meeting today.
Hey, Travell, Jeff Brown, where do you go to check in?
It's at the bottom of your bottom. There is a thing that says chat, and just click on that, and you can type in your name, and that's how we take attendance.
Hey, Travell.
Yes.
Tell them to type in their name and only their name.
Of course, you would think that, but sometimes it goes, sometimes you have to say that because we do know how folks do sometimes.
Yeah. There's some payoffs going on around here.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to go ahead and let's see here. I'm going to share my screen.
Well, I clicked on that and it doesn't say anything about typing your name in.
No, you can just type in the chat. You just type in your name, and that is how we record your attendance. But I got your mark down, Johnny.
Yeah, it doesn't let you. And I didn't do that at the first meeting either.
Okay. Well, we had you as here.
Okay.
Hey, Travell, this is Jeff Brown. Put me down for both meetings too. I ain't gonna be able to find it.
Okay, I got you, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to share my screen, and we're going to get ready to start this meeting together. Okay. All right, again, good afternoon, everyone. When I said everyone would take this time to put yourself on mute. If not, we would take the time to mute you. But go ahead at this time to put yourself on mute. Again, as we stated earlier, if you make sure you sign in. If you're not able to sign your name in the chat box, you can just holler it out, and we'll make sure you get credit for being at tonight's meeting. Again, welcome. This is our second meeting for this year. So again, I still hear someone give opportunity. Some folks still got some background noise. Let me put a folks on phone. There's mute there. I put you on mute. Okay, good. So double check. Make sure you are muted. We don't want any background noise. We do have a speaker this evening. So please make sure you're already on mute. All right. So just a couple of Zoom meeting guidelines. Again, most everyone is familiar, hopefully right now, using the audio and video. It's good to be on the video so we can see your faces. Automatically you logged in, you're on mute, but you can take yourself off mute at some point. You can change your view options to side-by-side mode while we're in this particular mode. You can see either just the person speaking, as many as you want, but you can look up at the top. And then if you have any questions when we get to the question and answer period, please place your questions in the chat box. This is just an overall kind of what we're going to go through tonight. We're going to have, again, welcome those that don't know me. My name is Travell Norton. I'm the president of the East Coast Football Officials Association. And so we're ready to, hold on, some folks are trying to get in. Let me make sure I admit them. We have a guest speaker here that's brought to us by Mr. Ronnie Wood. He has brought to us Mr. Ed Balbus, and he's going to be speaking to us this evening. He's going to speak at the beginning of this meeting, and then we will allow for then we will get into our official business and updates and so forth. But we'll allow him to get started first. And so we're going to get ready to call him forth to speak to us in any manner, to share with us his experiences and some things that, again, that will be valuable to all of our members here in this association. So I believe Ed is online.
Yeah, I'm here.
Ed, if you want, all right. So we're going to allow you to tell us a little about yourself, Ed, as well as tell us, your background and share with us some things that you have. So I do want to show, didn't show a picture of you. There we go. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and if you want, I actually have a couple of slides and a PowerPoint presentation walkthrough. So
sure,
I'm trying
good.
to share my screen. And
so what I'm going to stop my share, and so
okay.
you'll be able to share it.
All right.
Okay. All right, and you should be able to go ahead and share it this time.
All right, let me know when you can see my screen.
We can see it now. You can just put it on these. There we go. Good to go.
All right. Well, excuse me. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity to get back to where I started. I see some familiar names and faces. It's been a long time since I've been to a meeting of the ECFOA, but it's good to see some familiar folks out there. And what I wanted to do is spend a couple minutes, 30 minutes, kind of talking about a few things. One, introduce myself to those that I have not met, talk about some kind of career lessons learned, and some observations that I've made. I was actually able, it says 2018, it should be 2019. I was able to catch quite a few games last year. So just kind of some observations that I've made, and then kind of jump into a little bit of training. Still working out the kinks on sharing some video on plays, but really talk about, diving into advantage, disadvantage, and specifically on pass interference, and then share with you some data that I've collected from the SEC that can be helpful. And also I think it's pretty interesting data and information that's really not out there. So I'll just jump right into it. So here's, my name is Ed Balbus. Actually started at Lake Lytle working tackle football games back in 1996 with again, I think some of you folks that are on the call. I was part of the association from 96 to about 2007. Was able to work a state final. I think it was 2004, and I think William Myrick was on that crew, Justin Lucas. I'm trying to remember who else was on it, but I think it was 04. But that was certainly a highlight of my high school career, being able to work at Florida Field way back when, back in 2004. Started trying to work college football, really started in 2001 when FAU they were just thinking about starting up, and there was a college clinic that was held and really started plugging away. And it takes, those of you, I know some of you probably maybe work some college ball. It takes a long time, and you got to take a lot of swings at the ball here to knock one out. But I was able to get picked up by the Gulf South Conference in 2007. Worked primarily as a field judge and some as a side judge, and that's really where I kind of kept my career. And as you know, the process, you go to a camp, it's a tryout camp. There's the supervisor with the clipboard behind you. If he likes you, he'll invite you back. Maybe he'll give you a game or two. And then that's when the grading starts and the scrutiny begins. And you try and keep on moving up, trying to get a full schedule, try to get a playoff game. I was able to get a playoff game. I think it was the first round of the Division II playoffs. So that was the highlight of my Division II career. And I was also able to get into the Sun Belt Conference. I was on their supplemental roster starting in about the same time, 2007. I was put on a full crew in 2011, where I worked 6 or 7 years there, and continuing to try to get into my really my lifelong goal was to become an official in the Southeastern Conference. I was fortunate enough to get pulled up in 2013, started working a game or two a year, and I was fortunate enough in 2018 to be put on a crew where I just finished my second full-time year in the Southeastern Conference. I've been assigned to 7 bowl games, so that's certainly exciting. In fact, if you see the upper right corner there, that's Wes Booker, who's actually we're on the same crew together. He's a field judge, I'm the side judge, and we're holding up our 4 fingers because that's the 4th bowl game I've worked with Wes. I worked with him in 2012 in the Beef O'Brady's Bowl, and of course a couple military bowls with him, and then the Cheez-Its Bowl, and then this is the Quick Lane Bowl with Eastern Michigan against Pitt. And if you remember, that was the end of the game where our center judge, I think, took a flop and got quote punched in the face and dropped, and we definitely razzed him about that. If you haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube, and it's pretty amusing. So that's a little bit about my background. I certainly miss working high school. It's there's a lot of camaraderie in there, and it's good not to have to get on a plane and fly somewhere and spend 3 days. It's when you can just in and out. But that's just a little bit about me. So what are some of the lessons learned throughout, 20-something year career? And like I said, there's some faces on this call that have been doing a lot longer than I have. So I just kind of put together some little tidbits that I really started learning at Lake Lytle, and then it's been reinforced throughout high school. And then it's kind of settled down and focused on, here's kind of the key issues. And you all know this, but it's something that even at the Southeastern Conference, it's an issue. I mean, appearance matters, right? And we call it in the SEC field presence. And field presence, at least for me, is our supervisor, Steve Shaw, used to call it, if he tells you to improve your field presence, that means you need to drop some weight. So I got that call in 2017, and he said, look, you need to improve your field presence. So, I'd always exercise, and I really, cranked it up. And I even switched to light beer. What else can I do, right? So lost about 15 pounds, and that coincided with me moving up because, his position and a lot of supervisors, it's, people make, first impressions are important, and people, incorrectly can gauge your officiating skills by how you look. And it doesn't have to be all just weight. It's, having, clean uniform, shirt tucked in, hat, don't have yellow stripes in your hat, or if you're a white hat, not have a yellow hat. This is the basics, but you'd be surprised, even in the SEC, my head linesman's been in the conference 25 years, and he's excited that I think he's got his hat, and he's had it, I think, 20 of those 25 years. So I've been trying to hide that from him before every game. The next is hustle, but not hurry. I'm sure you've heard this throughout, but in watching some games this year, I think I see a lot of good hustle out there, but there can be times when you're almost moving too fast. So I've found, especially when you work in the line, that showing good hustle, especially in between plays, but try to stay back, not hurrying during the play, so that you can see everything in your viewpoint. Which takes me back, reinforces to slow down. Now, when I say slow down, it's really in, your foul recognition, process it. And you may think it's a long time, but wait a second or two. before you make that decision, because once you throw the flag, then it's going to be, it's very difficult. You can always pick it up, but it doesn't look good when that happens. I had a play 2 years ago, Texas A&M against Mississippi State, where you watch the film, I grabbed my flag, I think it moved about a half an inch, and I didn't throw it. I thought that we had offensive pass interference, and I processed it. I stayed off of it and watched the film, and thank God I didn't throw it, because it would have called back a touchdown catch. And so slow down. I've watched some games this past year where officials were getting the call correct, or in some cases maybe not correct, but in both cases very quick to throw the flag, especially on pass interference and other fouls that I look for. Establish a routine. And what I mean by this, I want to focus on a routine in between plays. One of the things that helped me look very crisp as a side judge is I would know exactly where 22 yards is, because that's where I would line up. So I would know when I accordion in and come back exactly where to go, and I'd go through my counting routine and things that, again, you learn at the lower level and move it on up, but it really helps you look crisp if you have the same routine, and it helps you mentally when you have a lot of things that are happening. It's very easy to get distracted. I think it's easier to get distracted in these larger stadiums when there's so much going on, and establishing a routine really would help me stay focused, especially as a deep wing where things happen, and maybe you might get 2 or 3 calls a game, but they're typically very big ones. And it's one where having a routine helps. And my concern is we didn't have spring football. Hopefully we'll have the camps where you can work some practices, but I'm concerned with having a 9-month being 9 months away from working any snaps is going to be an issue, because even when in the Quick Lane Bowl, it had been I think that game was the December 26th. It might have been a month since I had my last game. And I had a very easy, no-brainer pass interference call. And as I threw the flag, the back judge had a flag as well, but his flag was 2 yards away from mine. So even the basics of coming together, getting your flag together, making sure you have the right foul, it just fell apart. And I just felt because there was a lack of focus on my part. And then how and when to communicate. And I specifically mean with coaches on this, and I've seen that, even in this association, that the high school coaches, they're very vocal. And I've found that, you can really diffuse these situations very quickly if you give them the right amount of information to them, because a lot of times they're questioning it. Even if you can explain it, your short wings and a 5-man crew could really help with that on being that conduit of information to the coach, which I found very helpful. And if there's one complaint that in the SEC the coaches would make to the supervisor, is that the officials don't communicate enough, that they question, they have questions about it. And even with the communication system we have headsets and microphones, there's some crews that don't provide that information. But that's something that I learned. It really helped me in my career. And then shifting to foul recognition, it's really important to think about advantage and disadvantage. There's the age-old saying, you can have a holding call every play. I think that's absolutely incorrect. I think that you can hold to having an advantage or put someone at a disadvantage. Same thing with pass interference. Same thing with non-safety related fouls. In Palm Beach County, each team, typically you have some teams have 3, 4, 5 Division I players on there. These are really good athletes that can, break away from contact and let them recognize what takes a step away, what puts them at a disadvantage, what provides an unfair advantage for another player. And that's really important to understand and how to focus. And I know starting off in my career, that was difficult to find. I still struggle with it on offensive holding on the wide receiver on the outside. I try to understand what the defensive back is trying to do. Is he trying to get contained? If he does that, then I'm going to let it slide that he's holding him and, putting him where he wants to be. So, again, I'm not saying things you don't know, but this is something even, at the Division I level, got to constantly think about that and talk about that. And we have 3 and 4 hour pre-games before each game. And we watch film on advantage, disadvantage. And then lastly, make it big. We say this in our clinics, we say this in pregame. You'll live a lot longer, they always say, if you keep your flag in your belt than throwing it, because you'd be surprised when it happens up close and you're there personally, you think it's a lot bigger than it really is. And then when you watch the film, you see how either you're glad you didn't call it or to just make it huge, because it's easy to explain why you let something slide than if you called something that wasn't there. And I don't have this as a lesson learned, but it's one thing that I'm glad to see that you all are using Huddle every now and then. I've seen some film on Huddle. I recommend you watch it, watch yourself work. You can learn so much about watching where you are, where your hat is, what are you looking at, what are your mechanics? Are you getting good spots? Are you using cross-field mechanics? Don't look at it so much for tendencies and scouting. I mean, we do that as well, but it's more important on, what did you let go and what did you call? Knowing that's what the coaches see. That's typically the view from the press box or from the stands, and you can really gauge on what's big enough and what's not by looking at film and seeing, what really sprung a runner loose. Was there a foul involved with that? And lastly, you can't really see this, but we get graded every single play. That's a copy of one of our games. I think it's Georgia, Missouri from last year. But we'll have the 1 and 2 paragraph comments from position specialists all the way up to the supervisor on all of our plays. And then we go through our grades while watching film. And you have to answer to your crewmates as well as to why you cause not only your grade to go down, you start at 100 and you go down. You don't earn points by getting a play right. But this starts with your crew average. And if your crew average goes down because one official had a bad game, it's you're affecting the whole crew and their potential for a bowl assignment as well. All right, so my observations. So the reason why I was able to observe some plays and games is my son Mark. He was a linebacker at Jupiter. He's number 40. He's going to be playing football at Wake Forest. Actually leaves next week. They're July 1st. He's reporting. So very excited, and with my schedule, was able to I think I watched 5 or 6 games. Luckily started before you all did. So I saw some really good things out there. I saw a lot of good hustle. A lot of very obvious good camaraderie. Everyone showing up to the game on time. I know those are little things, but people not straggling in. You look like you're ready to work, and that's very good. And that was I was proud to see that. Also, some things that can improve on. But one of the things that hopefully you'll do, and I'm glad to see you're doing training, and maybe we can get some film going or something throughout the year. I've committed to Ronnie and others. Any way that I can help, I'd love to do it. Evaluate some film for you all. I mean, any way, because I know I'm always hungry for feedback too. So I think there's some things that we can work on. But I think I put a couple of bullets here. Let's more focus on point of attack. I saw a lot of fouls that were went backside, away from the play, holds that maybe were there, maybe weren't there. But it's all about this advantage, disadvantage. Look at the point of attack. Learn what the offense is trying to do. Is he trying to get outside on that run? Then you need to look at, the hold on that edge. You immediately go to that edge. I know it's a lot harder with 5-man mechanics. You don't have, you have a lot of responsibility, but I think at least the games I saw, that there should be a little bit more focus on the point of attack, pace of play. It's a big emphasis in college. These games are going 4.5 hours long in some case, even without overtime. So all the things that you can do on if there's a foul on the play, getting that preliminary signal out, it's going to be a hold, where the enforcement is. How do you administer the fouls quicker? How do you relay the balls in a little bit quicker? I think pace of play was it varied. There was some that was very good, some was very slow. So I thought that's something that can be emphasized, and then not being too technical in calls. I hate seeing, I hate throwing my flag. I hate being part of the game when there's a lot of flags. I know it can happen. You have to get the safety stuff. You have to get the big ones. But 10, 15, 20 fouls in a game, I think is a little bit much. I saw a lot of unsportsmanlike conduct fouls that, I don't know what they said. There was no contact. It was obviously, a UNS where he said something to the official or to another player. That's something where I think more proactive officiating can kind of nip that in the bud a little bit. When you see the players getting chippy, I try, at the beginning of the game, at first play, if there's a receiver's blocking a defensive back, I'll run up to them, hey, good block, way to get off, just let them know you're watching. And that seems to take care of a lot of the unsportsmanlike conduct if they know that it's not just a free-for-all. Short wings, I think, can really, really do that. When it's the ball, on the other side of the field, you're not really involved in getting a spot. Get in there, run in, talk to a player, talk to the defender, talk to the offensive player. Just let them know you're there, and that tends to take away the game kind of spinning out of control. In our Quick Lane Bowl, we ejected a player for spitting in the other player's face. I mean, there's things that you got to get, right? I mean, that's something where, it's just uncalled for. But being too technical, I mean, UNS, that's another example, but I think I saw some things, especially in pass interference, and I'll go into that real quick, and whistle control. There's a lot of whistles out there. We try to only have one whistle, and that's the covering official. I never blow my whistle. I mean, I'm a side judge. It's difficult, but I watched one game where there was an inadvertent whistle, and it was I think it was an example of if the official would have just waited, paused a second or two. You don't have to kill it. The play kills itself, is the old adage, but just please slow down on the whistles. And if you have more than one whistle, there better be a reason for that. Again, this is my personal opinions on things I've been taught and what we're taught in the SEC, but I know the IW is something that everyone knocks on wood about, but I saw what happened. It took away a big game, and I think being patient on whistles would help. All right, so let's focus a little bit on pass interference, and I'll go quickly, see how we're doing on time. Okay, so we have different categories of pass interference, and the thought process is if you cannot put pass interference into one of these categories, then you probably don't have a foul. First one is not playing the ball. Okay, the defender's in chase mode, not playing the ball. We want contact in college. You have to have contact, but very little contact. You're going to call for that. Playing through the back, that's basically he gets there early, right? It's a drag across the middle. It's a curl route. The defender goes through his back early. One-arm receiver. If you see a receiver going up with one arm, that no one, why would you make it more difficult? 9 times out of 10, if you watch the film, the other hand is being held down by the receiver. Grab and restrict, that's, just like it sounds like. He's grabbing him, and he's not letting him. It's a hold with the ball in the air, right? Cut off, where, a defender is in phase, which means he's in line or ahead of the receiver, and he'll get in front of him, slow him down, or push him. A lot of teams are teaching them to push them to the boundary, push them to the sideline. Very rare that that's called, but that's another category. And then hook and turn, where I put the emphasis on there has to be a turn of the body. And the other thing I've learned just recently is 9 times out of 10, the only way to turn someone's body is to have their hand around their shoulder. A hand around the waist, it's almost impossible to turn the defender or turn the offensive player. So that's the last one. So again, if you can't put it into a category, it's likely not a foul. All right, so I looked at, there were 118 plays in the Southeastern Conference without bowl games that had a pass interference. These are categories that I put in myself after reviewing the plays. It wasn't, I didn't talk to each official and ask what they called. So I looked at blitz or no blitz, what coverage the corner was in, what down did it occur. I thought that from the down standpoint, they would have occurred on, mostly third down, but they're actually mostly on first down, because in first down, defenses are typically in man and are blitzing. So once you get the defender in man, they get desperate, right? They foul. So 75% of the fouls were man-to-man versus zone. and then a little bit more than half was a blitz situation. We talked about the categories. Here are the categories that were put in. So basically 65% of all pass interference were either grab and restrict or not playing the ball. Okay, all those other ones, we talked about all those other categories, you know, very few. The one-arm receiver was only 10% of the calls, right? Cut off, but typically not playing the ball, you're gonna see that. I don't know what to make of this, to be honest. You know, I'm trying to, you know, the thing that jumps out at me, the takeaway from watching the film is when a defender is not playing the ball, I think the officials get their antenna up a little bit too much because, you know, they were almost too technical on that, or the grab and restrict as well. You see the grab, but it doesn't really restrict him too much. And so I think I didn't look at the grades if they're correct, incorrect. You also see here I have unknown. Like I looked at it and said, I don't know what the heck he or she called. So it's, you know, something that's interesting. I want to share a little bit of this data. You know, I look forward to working with you all and, you know, hopefully be able to review some film and, you know, open it up to any questions you might have.
If you would like to ask a question, you can either put it in the chat box or you can unmute yourself and ask a question to Ed.
I must have lulled you all to sleep or something.
No. Any questions? So Ed, if not, we thank you for your time. We definitely want to draw on your experience and help us when definitely we're going to be, our training group is getting together and they definitely will be looking to have some film review as we try to implement some type of evaluation system, you know, pilot evaluation system this year. If we're able to get on some type of, you know, have football, well, we will definitely call on you, but we appreciate you coming to present and sharing with us your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw there was one or two questions in there.
Some questions coming in.
There's a question in the comment section. And one of the guys asked, is there a call that you ever regretted making?
Yeah, so I had my crew actually made a video. I don't know if it's a meme or whatever it is, but Georgia, Missouri this past year, you know, my guy's the gunner on a punt, and he got completely taken down, tackled, probably about a half a second before the fair catch was made. And I just overthought it. I threw the flag. I ran to the back judge, and I said, hey, you need to tell me to pick this flag up. And he was no help at all. He's like, what are you talking about? Now the referee's over. And I just looked at him and said, hey, we need to pick this up. And he goes, okay, he picked it up. Well, the replay shows the guy was just completely mugged. I got like a -6 on it. It was just terrible. So that was one that that I regretted. I see the other one, another couple of questions. Will there be a season this season? So I'll tell you what the SEC is doing. We're moving forward as if there is. All the teams have reported. You know, what's interesting that my son's at Wake Forest, I get to see the inside behind the scenes on how they're getting players to return. And the concept is let's get them in, let's isolate them, let's control who they see, and that way, you know, in enough time so that you can quarantine before the season starts. So it's based on state by state, and the SEC, all the states have opened up, and LSU has committed to not having restrictions on fans, and a couple of other, I think Alabama as well. So I think it's, you know, knock on wood, we'll have some sort of football. We don't know what will happen, but what else? All right, quick. And I know we're out long on time, Terrell. I don't know if you want me to just keep answering these questions real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. We'll answer the questions. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Third year. How much experience do you think I should be considered to start going to college football? Okay. One of the mistakes I made is that everyone told me you need 10 years of high school and you need to do a state championship. And you know, I don't know what the magic year is. There's a guy that just got called up to the SEC. I think he's early 30s. He's probably, you know, he's worked in the Sun Belt 2 years. I think he worked 4 or 5 years of high school before that, right? So there's some guys that they're on the rocket ship going up. I'll tell you, in 2001, when I've been working 4 or 5 years, I thought I was ready. And I was not ready because my first college game in 2007 was a disaster. I think I had 5 incorrect calls. I was just so hyper and amped up. So I don't know what the magic time is. I will recommend, if you're interested, there's some camps that are out there that are good camps. You know, the Oxford Officials Clinic is very good. There's a couple others where it's not about just taking your money. It's about teaching and then exposing you. The Oxford Officials Group exposes you to supervisors and evaluators. There's one in Birmingham that I actually went to in 2017. I went to a camp. I said, I need to get better. So I think the first step is to get some instruction, go to a clinic, a camp, and then start, just rolling the dice. But and be the best, grow where you are, right? Be the best official that you can be at your level, because that's how you get better. All right. I don't care if you're working a Lake Lytle game or out in Wellington or wherever. Just do the best you can. Calling DPI or pregame. So pregame, we go through every single aspect of the game. You know, when we're leaving to go to the game, when we're talking to the captains, when or the coaches, when you're doing all that. It's a 3 to 4 hour experience. It's, you have to go through it. And then after the game, we go to conference room. Replay comes in, we have an evaluator, and we'll spend 2 to 3 hours after the game watching film, going over it. It's brutal. I hate the post game because you're just going to see it again. Anyway, don't get me started on it, but there's a lot of work to it. DPI on a secondary receiver being too technical. In high school, no uncatchable rule. So there's 2 things, right? There's being uncatchable, which I assume he's throwing to that receiver and it's, it's too high or whatever. If there's no uncatchable rule in high school, well, then you got to call that, right? But a secondary one, I don't see why you'd ever call that, to be honest. I mean, if you're saying it's DPI on the right side and he throws to the left, or they're twins and he throws to one, but if he's not throwing to that receiver, I'd say just lay off it. You just, I don't think it's going to be an issue. How much work do you put in a week leading up to the game? So I told you about post game on Saturday. Sunday we pretty much have off, but the film is up already. So what I always do is I look at the fouls I called. We'll get our grades on Tuesday. Wednesday we'll get a quiz. So we got to do the quiz, and some crews want you to turn in your quiz. Some you just go over it. We fly out Friday afternoon or evening. We get there, we'll do 2 to 3 hours of video review. And we do video of our previous game, all the fouls that we have. That'll take, an hour or 2. And then the conference puts together a training tape for the week. And that's usually 20, 30 minutes long. Your goal for the week is not to make the training tape. There are very, very few good plays on the training tape. So you got to stay off of that. So the first thing you do is you zip through it to make sure it's not your game. And then you hope it's one of the other, 7 guys. 7, 8 guys that are on there. So anyway, and then conference calls with the crew. We don't really do it during the week. We spend so much time together. I mean, every waking moment from Friday to Sunday that, but off season, we have a weekly 2-hour rule session on Monday nights. So, tonight, 8 o'clock, I'll be jumping on that. So it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of camaraderie though, right? I mean, I missed it. I'm sure you guys miss getting together and hanging out and doing, talking football, right? So anyway, again, I'm excited to be back, and all right, this is a question for you. But yeah, any other questions? Just let me know.
There is one from, I think Mr. Arnett says, is there a recommended position migration, or should an official focus on a primary position?
Yeah, so here's my recommendation. When you get your chance and you go to a camp and you go to a Gulf South camp, or you go to, you name it, right? I mean, there used to be one in, the Jacksonville group. I don't even know who's running that now. He or she's going to be standing behind you with the clipboard. You better be ready, right? So I think, I would think specializing so you can get as good as you can be in that position. And then when you go to a camp or a clinic, or, stay in that position, learn that position, get reviewed and evaluated at that position. And then when they bring you in, they typically say all deeps are the same. You field judge, side judge, back judge, they'll move you around. Line judge, head linesman are obviously the same. And then umpire, center judge, you're looking to exchange those. Referee, I'd stick with being a white hat, because that's a difficult position. And we actually had Alex Moore, who's from Hollywood, I think, or Miami. The side judge in the SEC, just got moved up full-time white hat in the SEC. So I texted him. I said, "Hey, did you tell him you're not a referee?" But he said he had worked some in, I think, the MEAC or something before. But I'd say specialized. And then I tried to play the game. Hey, there's not a lot of field judges and side judges because most high schools are 5-man. So that's how I got into that. I don't know if it worked or hurt me, but I had worked a lot of back judge in high school along with line judge.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Some good questions there. Any other questions?
Yeah, I will tell you, Justin Lucas did miss a call in that high school championship game. There was a late hit out of bounds that he just totally kicked, and I had to save his butt again. So I'm just letting you know.
Well, we definitely thanks for that information.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Ed, and again, appreciate you. We definitely be calling on you, again. So appreciate you. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, we will get back to our regular business real quick. Let me share my screen. All right, let's go to. Having some technical. There we go. All righty, so real quick, just for our secretary's report, I don't think, is Mike on the line? Mike Ronaldo, are you on the line? Okay. Just those that have come in since we started, to get a credit for this meeting, please type your name in the chat box. If you're calling in on your phone lines, just holler out your name real quickly, and we'll make sure you get credit for this meeting. So again, to get credit, sign in, type your name in the chat box, or if you want to call out your name before this meeting is out, we'll make sure you get credit for attending. We will have the general meeting. These general meetings are the one we had on June 1st, and tonight we'll actually have the videos posted on the website. So you'll be able to see the PowerPoint as well as the video for the last 2 meetings. So Mark, I will be sending that to you tomorrow. So you'll be able to post that onto the website. We have our treasurer's report. Justin, are you still on? Justin Lucas? Thought he was on. Justin Lucas, are you still on? If not, here's our treasurer's report that Justin sent over today. And you can see there's not been any changes since our last meeting, besides the payout for the webmaster. Are there any questions as it relates to the treasurer's report? And if any questions come in the chat box, if someone let me know, because at this time I can't see it while I'm sharing. So if any questions come in the chat box, someone let me know. All right. Next thing here. So we will go over some quick updates. I'm going to have Vince and Bernard give an update on the FSA AA Leadership Conference. I was not able to attend due to a funeral, but I will just give some quick updates to those folks were not at our last meeting, let you know that, again, we're in a kind of a wait and see kind of mode to see. We know that the district is putting together their plans for how football will get started here locally, and what they're still trying to put together the plan for the academics overall. I have had a phone conversation with the athletic administrator for the district, Valerie. And so again, there's, like I say, it's a work in progress, but at this particular time, there's nothing new to be updated. So we're really just waiting to see. I mean, everyone is still anticipating and planning, but for football to happen. But again, all of that is going to depend on what's happening on the ground as it relates to this COVID. And as we most can see, we've had an increase in cases in this area over these last week or so. So again, we're hoping that maybe something may change before the season starts, that maybe more favorable. But we're going to continue to move forward as if the season is going to start. So we're going to have our regular training sessions. We're going to have our regular, meetings, as well as drafts, crew drafts. We're going to go through the whole gamut as for preparation for the season starting in the fall. As we get closer to it, we'll definitely be able to share more. As we get more information, we'll definitely let the membership know. We are going to work as a board, going to put together some of our own return to field guidelines for our crews and officials. So we can, we're not going to wait on just what the district or what the state puts together, but we're going to come up with, so if you have any issues or concerns that you would like to see addressed as it relates to us getting back on the field, please email me. Please, it's the time we want to make sure we understand everybody's, where you're coming from, any issues that we should be aware of, because again, we want to make sure everyone is safe. We want to make sure and we're thinking about all things as it relates to the officials. So we will definitely, as on the board, we're going to put together our own official kind of return to the field guidelines based upon the CDC. And then hopefully at that time, we'll see what the FSAAA as well as the school district comes up with. Any questions before I have Vince and Bernard come give an update on our leadership conference we had week before last? I can't see the chat box. Any questions in the chat box? Corey or Vince? Nothing? All right, so Vince, I did put some stuff here from our conversation, but you can take it, Bernard, to kind of share real brief quickly as far as it's kind of your feedback from the leadership conference. Is Vince on?
Yeah, Travell, I'm here.
Okay.
No, you there as well? Okay, so good afternoon, evening, everybody. Good to see everybody's amped up. Just to kind of give you a somewhat of an overview of what the state discussed in leadership conference. More importantly, Travell has put the registration information up there, which was probably the most important thing. To piggyback, in addition to that, the state is indicating that there will be, and I repeat, according to them, there will be some type of product on the field this coming season. They're not sure what that's going to look like, but they are indicating that there will be some type of football on the field. Again, that's sort of the end of it from their perspective. They're really leaving it up to the locals in terms of each association, as it relates to how that's going to materialize. So it doesn't give us, any concrete information other than that there will be something on the field, which again, you kind of take it for what it's worth, that, they're sort of just kind of not really driving the ship, so to speak. They're leaving it up to the local associations to do just that. The other thing that they did discuss is, which is more importantly, and you see it right there on your screen, they're getting away from the rule books online. We'll get, correct me if I'm wrong, Bernard, but I think it was one, you get a rule book, but you will not get a case book, nor will you get an official manual that comes out, I think, every other year or every third year.
That's close to the mark. He said they will send the rule book each official will receive. However, case book, manuals, illustration books, they will only send one to the association. So there would be one available that we can extract information from, but it would not be to individuals, and it would not be accessible online at all. And if I can jump in for a minute, the reason for that is the FHSAA is sort of splitting with the National Federation. They're not going to be 100% National Federation, partly due to the fact that the National Federation has broken away from Arbiter. Okay, so with that break, that means that our insurance that was covered through National Federation will now be covered through Arbiter. FHSA ain't got them a good deal on that. That's nothing that you're going to see directly, but what that will happen is we're not sure how the test is going to look now, but it's not going to be National Federation. FHSA still have their agreement with Arbiter, so Arbiter's taking on a greater role in that. That in part, the group that National Federation is now going with is sort of a new startup program. They have been more or less dealing with scheduling of schools, and they're trying to incorporate more officials' accessibility with that site. So the FHSAA decided not to go in that direction, but it's impacting us because I know some of us want to still have access to the digital rule books. I, for one, want to, and I'm contemplating whether or not, as an individual, I may just go and do that with the National Federation myself. I know a lot of youngsters, a lot of more techie individuals like having it accessed digitally. So that's not going to be through FHSAA, but you can take that responsibility on your own.
All right, thank you, Bernard.
Okay.
To piggyback on that, although they will not be providing the additional book online as we've had in the past, they will not be increasing the dues as well. So the dues will remain the same as it has been in previous years. So there'll be no increase there if there's a positive from that standpoint. One of the other things that they touched on that was very important in terms of is the pay. And I know everybody was, kind of amped up about that this time last year, obviously. But they put together, they did get some feedback from some principals, some athletic directors. They put together, I don't know if it was the task force that was in place initially and they brought them back, or they had some new members. But at the end of the day, the state said that they would honor what they had put in writing and forwarded to us back in January, I believe, where which included the new rates. However, those rates did include the maximum that you can, the associations can negotiate with the school district. However, if the school district and association, want to, for all practical purposes, negotiate a lower rate, they can. But they, as they did in the past, they put it at the max rate. I think we had already decided, at least from our association, that we were not accepting, anything less than what the highest rate or what the pay increase, the max rate, as now defined by FHSAA. And we've already forwarded that information to the school district here. Travell and myself, we anticipate some additional communication going forward. But our position at this point is we will be, accepting only the max rate. So basically, the state is, behind us on that. Another key point that they made, and this is basically for our white hats, but we'll share it, with the general association. When we have ejections, last year they implemented a procedure whereby the ejection report, obviously you got 24 hours to get that report in. And they also require that each high school submit a report as well. Not often, but oftentimes those reports were the same. There were occasions where the school sent in a report and association didn't. Obviously that doesn't look good from our standpoint. Basically, there was a reiteration of, if you have an ejection, then make sure that you submit that report in a timely manner. Not late, but in a timely manner. They make a decision, there's a quick turnaround time, reference to that. One of the questions came up referencing to what happens as a result when these reports are filed, the officials are not notified. The FHSAA came back and said basically that protects not only the school, the kid, but we as officials. That's why they don't put that information out. It's our responsibility to send it in. They make that decision. We sort of leave it at that point. I think most of us know they've been pretty good. We had some ejections last year, and the state, they dropped the hammer pretty good. So they'll continue to back us. They were very adamant about that. You send a report in, if we have questions, we'll give you a call back. If not, we're going to proceed as called for. And they've done a really good job about that. Just so you know, as our training, as we're doing virtual online training, there are other places around the state that are doing training as well. If you want to have some additional training, just as we have a speaker tonight, there's some other associations doing the exact same thing. You can chime into theirs. We just have to figure out a way how to get the link to you if you're interested in that. Some of them they put on the website. But again, it's not mandatory. It's again, if you're interested. You just heard, our college official, one of our own say, how important that is. So, the more you get, the more you're trying to learn, the better off you're going to be. Let me segue into what the state said as it relates to state assignments. That was a specific question. They were adamant that it's not personal. They assign it based on who's playing, and then not only location, but the two schools playing. They try to get the next closest association to officiate those games, unless they've seen that school before. One of the things that they said they take into consideration, and Bernard, I think there were some additional ones that you had here, but they talked about your association, your knowledge, your rule, your presentation, your demeanor. All of those things they take into consideration when they start to make their selection. So they talked about knowing the rules. They talked about mastering your mechanics. They talked about, focusing on, the actual, game itself. Be a professional. So all of these things that they say go into their selection process. Again, they were very adamant. They don't make it personal. They try to get the best crew possible to represent them at the state assignment. My question, just so you all know, I have this one every year. Every year I go to the leadership conference, specifically related to 7-man mechanics. I put that out there again. They did a good tap dancing job around it, but in the end, they said basically it's left up to the local districts, and obviously money is a factor, especially now that we've gotten a significant increase. In short, there'll be no 7-man mechanics, even though they acknowledge every game has a playoff implication during the regular season. With that said, Travell and I, and Bernard, we'll be talking about, trying to put something together to, kind of ready us, for that. So we're not at the last minute or the last game of the season, just having our first 7-man mechanic game. But we'll bring that information, forward as the season and the training progresses, and we'll get with Corey, our training coordinator, as well. Bernard, can you think of anything else that I may have bypassed, overlooked?
Just a couple of things in addressing, not to hold you guys too long. It really was going back and forth, sort of, what the expectations were in selecting crews for state. And Vince touched on a lot of the things that they talked about, such as professionalism, not being timid on calls, not being premature on the calls, your communications with the fans, professionalism, looking your best, showing up on time, mastering mechanics, things of the like. The state was asked also they indicated they want the best of the best in order to get to the state, because that's where the top teams are. They want to see the tops in each position if that's what they can get. And if they see an association can provide that, then they will look to that association, even if they have to get multiple crews from that association. They say that they use the the site that they had before with National Federation used to video the playoff games and they video certain matchups during the year. They said they would use that in order also to evaluate crews. They said also if your crews are put together as an association early enough and you want them to be evaluated on a game prior to them making selections, that they're willing to do so. They either send someone out, or if they can get access to the tape, they will go through it themselves. So I thought that would be a tool that we could use in order to better ourselves and to assist with our selections when it comes to the playoff games and beyond. How that could look, we talked briefly about possibly choosing a 7-man game of the week, something along those lines. We didn't mention earlier, but the state, at least I might have missed it, the state is changing their website. Instead of .org, they're going to fhsaa.com. Instead of when you go into Arbiter, sometimes people over time change their emails. They say if you choose to do so, you need to register under your old email before selecting to change your email. Otherwise, all of your prior information, test scores, years of experience is lost and they don't have a way of recovering it. They say they do, it would actually have to go through Arbiter, have to match the accounts, and it's a tedious process and something they would want to avoid. So if you have a new email, go under your old and then under your profile, make the change so that you stay consistent with that. Vince already told them that the plan under COVID-19 is kind of unknown right now. They want us to be flexible and adapt and adjust. They're leaving it up to the different school districts as to where they're going to go with that. And a lot of them, the district themselves, don't know. They did touch on the social climate. And if there was teams or individuals that chose to kneel or during the anthem or show some signs of a protest or solidarity, that they have no real guidelines they've established, want us to be acceptable and flexible to that extent. It was asked if an official wanted to take a knee, would they have any objections, which they indicated they would not have any possessions on, they wouldn't have any position on that at the current time. So maybe as a local group, that's something that over time we can discuss as we get closer to the time that we're taking the field. Okay, what Vince talked about on the ejections committee, on the penalties after ejection, he said, stay out of that. Don't even try to discuss it, what they might get. They say that our reports sometimes are coming in not very well detailed. We're saying that there was an unsportsmanlike act, but we're not describing that act. Or we may say that the person used profane language. They said the more detail you can make that report, it's easier for them to have, a sort of a cake cutter box as to this is the violation, this is the penalty. Okay, so we can help them with that. It really was a lengthy meeting. The meeting went about 2 hours. I tried to recap as much of it as I was able to. It was brought up about the Jessica Lunsford Act. They're saying that's handled by the individual districts. So again, you would refer back to them on that. They did say that in changing the website, if you have something you want to add, we mentioned to Travell, if you want to send some things up as an association, pictures, things of that sort, they'll be glad to include it on their site. Also, if we want them to participate in any of our meetings, they're willing to have somebody available if we would notify them in a timely manner that they can arrange, either to speak or even to observe what we're doing. And the other thing is that they're going to put on their own statewide meeting or clinics that they're giving the various associations an opportunity to do so. I think Broward has already volunteered to do so. I think that if we step up to the plate in that direction, it may start to mend some of our relationship dilemmas that we have with the state. Okay, so that's pretty much the recap of what I had without holding you guys too long.
Great. Are there any questions? If someone has got a lot of background noise, are there any questions? I can't see the chat box. Are there any questions from the membership? Any questions?
Guess there was it looks like there may have been a clarification point stating that the FHSA asked us to be brief but concise prior to this, and now they're requesting more detail. So is that sounds accurate?
Well,
But
let me, and I just responded to Bruce. I think, Corey, what they're trying to make sure that we do is kind of like Bernard gave the example. If you have a penalty, obviously an ejectable one, then don't leave it broad. Be as specific as you can relating to that penalty. I always say, short and sweet. Make sure that you have, all the pertinent information there. Obviously, they're not looking for, a long drawn out, lengthy, hey, play so and so, so on and so forth. But what they are looking for is what did that player do that warranted his ejection. So they just want us to be a lot more specific when it comes to that. Again, maybe from a, not misunderstanding standpoint, we don't want to give more than necessary. Give what's needed, and that should be it. Bernard gave the one example, which was, and that was just the same example that the state gave. So just, kind of just be mindful of that. Just, we want to give them, like Bruce said, we want the information to be, concrete, concise, and, again, brief to a point. But again, if you have to put, certain, additional information in there, then so be it. But they want us to be as brief and to the point as possible, as specific to the point as possible. Did that clarify it for you, Bruce? I saw your response. I'm just hoping that gave some clarification to the question, or misunderstanding to it. Okay, Bruce, I'm gonna say that I'm gonna accept that a yes. Okay, all good. All right. Any other questions that either myself or Bernard can answer? Kind of, between the two of us went over it. Like Bernard said, it was a lengthy, 2-hour meeting, right at 2 hours, 10 to 12. A lot of information, but then again, still some uncertainty. So, we just kind of have to continue to be patient. There's a lot going on. Stay safe, understand that, where we are. Again, like Travell said at the top of the conversation, the top of the meeting, we're preparing as if there's going to be a season. I don't think any of us, not even the FHSA, knows what it's going to look like from district to district. There's a lot that's being discussed. I think, Bernard, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were just now putting together their COVID task force. So again, what that's going to entail, I don't think a lot of us know. They said they will keep us up to speed. We'll be more, obviously we'll pass that information on to you as the members, but for now, we'll proceed, as if there's going to be, some type of season, and we can't go any further than that. There's still going to be a lot of I don't knows, and I hate saying it this way, until we know. We won't know until we know, and I hate saying that way, but that's what it is. So with that, no other questions. Travell will, turn it back over to you.
Before we turn it back over, Travell, I did want to do one quick clarification. Bob Clem, I appreciate the comment he made, a statement that it is the National Federation that's breaking away from Arbiter and not the FHSAA, which is exactly correct. But what that does is it puts us in a pickle, because the FHSAA, that National Federation hub, will no longer be on the Arbiter site, which is what a lot of our information was being transferred through. And that's why we don't have access to the rule books as well. And that's why we're saying the FHSAA is saying we're not 100% in with National Federation because of our agreement with Arbiter, which, as I said earlier, impact not only information that's being disseminated, but also insurance and some other factors there.
All right, so thank you, Bernard. I'm able to see some of these questions now. So again, let me go real briefly, a couple of things just to add on. We are looking to that. I did reach out to the FHCAA to have them come to, be our guest speaker at our next meeting on July 6th. And so maybe by that time, we will have a little bit more update on where we are as the season. I will be on there. They're having a task force meeting with the state on tomorrow. So I will be on that meeting via Zoom tomorrow. So I'll probably get some more insight as to where they're headed. Those are some things that's coming up. Again, we as associations have decided that we're going to hold off until the late part of July as it relates to our local registration, even though the state will start theirs July 10th. We are going to wait till late July as we kind of see where we are, what's going to happen. And then we'll definitely let everyone know. But local registration and dues will not be due until late July. As we get closer to that time, we'll definitely, maybe by July 6th, we'll kind of have more of a understanding what it's going to look like. But we just ask everyone to be flexible. Again, we're in a wait and see mode, and we'll definitely keep everyone updated. But like we said in the last meeting, this is a good time, during this here time, for everyone to get it. If they have, if you have rule books, or once I get the rule books, we'll let you know how we're going to disseminate them out to everyone. But go to on our website, get to some of the virtual clinics, again, while you're studying, getting prepared for the season. A couple of questions that I see here about case books. We are purchasing case books and officials manuals for new officials and second year officials. If you want to purchase one yourself, you're definitely more than welcome. We may look to try to put, the one that we do receive, maybe if there's a way to put it as a PDF on the website, we will work to see if we can do that. But if you like a case book or officials thing, you will have to purchase that yourself, and they're not that expensive. But we will be looking to purchase them for first and second year officials. Another question I see here: what is the status of contract negotiations with the Palm Beach County? It's been on hold. It's kind of put on pause because of the due to the COVID. They were, they're kind of in a whole different phase. They're trying to really see what academics are going to look like for next year. So it's just been on pause. So I think at some point, once we, they get through this year period, that'll be ramped back up. But I mean, we were at a point where we did at least have the outline of a contract in place. And so I think once we get through this here phase, we'll be able to move forward with the contract. However, we still are making, again, there are certain things we are going to be requiring of them this year, definitely around it's going to be against health and safety for our officials, as far as when we go to games at the different, things that they should automatically do, but we're going to make sure we hold them accountable to that because it's even more important this year. Let's see, what's the other question? How many current members are registered with ECFOA? There's no current registration. Our last year registration, we had over 120 some officials usually register every year. How many varsity crews are there during this season? We're gonna stick with 12 as of right now, but that could change. That could be fluid based upon, again, it could decrease based upon officials that maybe, situations. So we don't know, but it could be very fluid. I answered that question. Okay, great. Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns as it relates to any general updates? And these are some good questions. Thank you, Vince and Bernard, for standing in and on that leadership call to share with us to our group.
No problem. Tavell, I did type back in. Someone asked for the registration date, so I typed it in the dialogue. Registration opens on July the 10th for the FHSAA. Late date is August the 10th, and the last day is August 31st.
Yes, everything is on the screen currently right now. I hope everybody can see it. But
someone asked that earlier. Okay, so we're good there.
All right, so real quickly, we'll go to Bernard. Do you have any updates that you want to share? You're good. Then I know Yetta's on the line. We'll let her give any updates real quickly.
As far as Auburn updates, obviously, we don't have no timeline. So therefore, the only thing I would suggest is that start, setting your own calendar as best that you're able to. And so that once we're there, that we're able to start rolling. Obviously, you'll be able to go in and interact with Arbiter once the state opens it up on the 10th. So therefore, that's when you look at, make sure your information is accurate so that we're not at the beginning of the season and say, oh, I changed emails and now I'm having an issue there. So I say get in and try to familiarize yourself as much as possible. The FHSA did agree, since they have this set up with Arbiter, that they would be more accessible to us if we're having any issues that we need to deal with and facilitating through Arbiter.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Ms. Yetta Green, you're online? Is Yetta still online?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, just want to say thank you for letting me sit in on this. It's nice to hear everybody and know that you all are out there. We're looking forward to hopefully getting a season started. Again, it's hard to plan for athletics and activities to begin until we know what the school day will look like. And just to kind of give you an idea, the school district had put out a survey to parents about the school day, and their last day to answer that was last Wednesday, which was June 17th. And they said they hoped that by July 17, they would know what their school day is going to look like. That's that gives them a little time to work with the surveys, but that's pushing us closer and closer to the start date. I will tell you that our individual schools, the coaches are very anxious to know if they can get out and start any kind of normal conditioning that would be done at this time. And that has not been released yet either. The state start date for playoffs and tryouts is July 27. And that's not been adjusted at all, but obviously for our players to go out there on July 27th and having been sitting in their homes and not doing anything until then. So we really are trying to get something up there so maybe they can start meeting with their players, even if it's in small segments, in small groups. And that's probably what they're going to do. We do know that some of the private schools have already started meeting, that schools in the Panhandle have already started. So that's a county decision, but they're kind of working with that to see when they can get out there and start up. They have to have some exercise and some contact with each other, even if it's in a small group kind of thing. And that would be easier to do for the conditioning. So they are looking at that, but again, there are no answers on that. As soon as we know something, we'll get back to you. Everybody is anxious to, have a season of some kind. And we're glad that you all are hanging in there and preparing the way you are. We appreciate it. The one other question I've gotten is the fingerprint office. The school district has not been open for anybody except school police and the technology people and the superintendent staff. Since we left on March 20th, I haven't been back there. Most people haven't been back there. Fingerprint office is not open. We know some of you had some Jessica Lunsford badge questions, but as soon as we get a date that maybe they'll open up by appointment only or something like that, we will pass that along to you. And it may be a situation where expiring badges could be extended a little bit, because they're doing that on some other things. They're doing that even on like teaching certificates and athletic coaching certificates. The state might give them a month extension or something. So that's kind of an update. So don't panic on it if your badge is expiring. We will get to you, but you can't go out. People have asked me, can we go get fingerprinting somewhere else? No, you have to do it through the school district. Okay, you can do it through another school district, but I don't think any school districts are doing it. And just appreciate your hanging in there with us, and excited again to get another season off, which I think we will in some way, shape, and form. So look forward to working with you. Any general questions at this time? Okay, well, thank you, Travella, and everybody for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you, Yetta. I did get a couple more questions here in the chat box about electronic whistles. Again, we're going to, as an association, put together a plan. We'll definitely review about the use of electronic whistles. And also someone asked in relations to what safety issues will be addressed for protecting umpires as well. Yeah, we're looking at all of that as relates to all officials, definitely those that are going to be always in close contact, which is the umpires and the wing officials. So we definitely want to look at what that looks like and be aware. So thank you for your question, Barry, and we'll definitely consider that as we put together our plan. And it will take that. If you have, like I say, anybody have any particular issues, please email me the things that you want us to be aware of, that we can, and putting together kind of our own association guidelines. And so we can definitely be able to address this from a health and safety standpoint. So please email me things that we need to keep in mind or consider. And so when the board gets together and put together this plan, we want to make sure we have all points of view. All right, we're going to go real quickly to Corey, our training coordinator, just to give a quick update. Let's see here.
Hello, everybody. Again, welcome to a new season. We do have some interesting things for you guys this year as far as training and trying to keep our association up to snuff. Like Bernard and Vince stated earlier, the state wants the best officials out. So if they are in consideration of taking multiple crews from the same association, we definitely want ECFOA to be part of that group. To start, our rules interpreter for this year will be Mr. Jeff Brown. He's accepted that position. So if we have any questions in regards to rules, understandings, interpretations, Jeff Brown will be our go-to person. With that being said, if there's an issue in regards to a rule that we need to address, we need to get those, email Jeff Brown and copy myself on that. And we only want one person reaching out to the state. So let's keep that in mind. If there are any questions or concerns about a rule and how to apply that, Jeff Brown will be our rules interpreter for the season. Remember, you'll email him and copy me so that we'll all be in the loop. But we only want one person contacting the state. Also, we're going to actually start our training course outline on the next meeting night, which is July 6th. However, tonight I did want to put up the rules changes for 2020 so you all can get familiar with that. So take a look at the rules changes that will be up for this coming season. Also, we will start. So if you have any questions about these, we'll run through them real quick. The first one, I think most crews have been doing this anyway. However, it's being pointed out as a point of emphasis. We want to get a team designated representative, whether it be a coach or a player on the field. I think sometimes that changes, but as White has, we'll discuss this a little bit more about when we speak to the coaches. They need to understand if they designate someone to a coach, rather, to accept penalties. And with that being said, also timeouts, we're not going to switch back and forth. In regards to weather delays, in the last 3 minutes of the second period, if there's a weather delay, both coaches have the option to shorten the halftime. So let's keep that in mind. The 40-second play clock clarification. When there's a dead ball, to eliminate that potential timing advantage. This past season, we had a 25-second play clock on certain stoppages when it came to defense. So now that play clock will go back to 40 seconds at all times. Actually, it'll go back to all times. The next one specifies when we will have a 25-second play clock, which is following an illegal kick. So that looks like one of the few opportunities that will have the 25-second play clock. We'll get into that a little bit more in detail when we start our training curriculum. The disconcerting act file, basically the defense using words to try to, instead of it being a 15-yard penalty, that's being changed to a 5-yard penalty. It's no longer an unsportsmanlike foul when the defense is talking across the ball or ridiculousness. One other change that's been made is spiking the ball to conserve time. The quarterback can now be in the shotgun. If I read that correctly, they do have to throw the ball to the ground immediately so they can be in the shotgun. It does not have to be a hand-to-hand snap anymore. So white hats in particular, let's keep that in mind when it comes to spiking the ball from the shotgun. It will no longer be intentional grounding.
Corey, to add to that, just make sure that everyone knows, as you can see, that he still has to be directly behind the center.
Yes.
He can't be off center to the right or to the left and like that, the normal,
Like a wildcat or offset
formation. That's what that's for. So as long as he's in that direct position, it's the same as him being underneath the center. And it does have to go directly to the ground.
Correct.
Go ahead.
So again, more so the white hats, let's be aware of that situation. And that's a good point out by Vince. You do still have to be directly behind the center. However, you can be in the shotgun and spike the ball on the ground as opposed to having to be under the center. Our 2020 points of emphasis: sportsmanship, the intentional grounding, and ineligible downfield lineman. I think we really have to collectively focus on that. That is a responsibility of the umpire, but also if the play is going opposite to a wing official, you can kind of hold that line. You don't have to take off and go down all 40 yards down the field because there's a receiver. Do we have any questions? I see there were some posted here. Jason, we are going to talk about some training for clock operators that's actually part of our course outline, is a clock operation and starting and stopping the clock. And in regards to the clock operators PPE, I'm not sure what kind of PPE that you have other than your face mask. You can always wear gloves. I'm not sure if the association will be purchasing a box of gloves or not, but I think that's something that we could surely talk about at the next board meeting.
Corey, to chime in on that, some of these things, especially when it comes to, the precautions that are going to be taken to ensure our safety. I think, obviously the district is going to make their decision. We don't know how much of that FHSA is going to chime in on. It's my understanding that, as I said earlier, Bernard backed me on that, is that they're going to try to stay out of it and let the districts make that decision. I think as an association, once the district does, put out what they're going to put out in terms of what a game is going to look like, I think for us, we can then, address, any additional safety concerns that we're going to have. I do understand that, in that booth, oftentimes you obviously are well within a 6 foot radius. If you would, you're pretty much on top of each other in there. So we understand the close proximity to that, and it will be hard if under the normal circumstances to social distance yourself as well as, continue to protect yourself. So we'll address these things as they unravel. Again, I think Travell said he may have some additional information after tomorrow that will kind of give us, a little more of an understanding. We'll be able to update everybody, at the next meeting. So that's kind of where we are. I do appreciate the questions and the concerns. Don't think that the board is taking that light. We're not, again, as I said earlier, I hate saying it this way, but you'll know when we know, and unfortunately we don't know yet. So I was just adding that to address that question.
Thanks for addressing that. Like you said, the school district does have to make a choice as to what's going to happen. I would imagine they will cut down on the number of people in the press box, but that's neither here nor there until they meet and make that final decision. We will figure out.
It may be a good opportunity, Corey, if I can cut y'all for a second.
Yes, sir.
To look at the schools providing with the remote timing devices. I believe Boynton has one already. And so some schools are going to that. And that way we can bring that guy out of the box and have him closer to the field anyway. It's better communications for us.
That's true.
Maybe a
and
good
you're right.
window.
There are a couple.
Yeah, it's a good window that we can pursue that. Maybe. Yeah.
So what? We can
Yeah,
look
but no, I
into
think
that.
that's right. I think that's right, Bernard Chief Court. But I think, it's probably, way fewer schools that do that have those additional, score boxes. So again, like I say, until we get to, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it based on, again, the road that the state decides to go down. So that may be, an option. I don't know, have an auxiliary clock or one that we can, have down, or, if push came to shove and they can't give us that, then we can always keep the time on the field. All those things will be, kind of hashed out, as Corey said, once the districts make their decision, and the board can, take, all things into consideration, especially your health and safety, and then we can address those individually and appropriately as deemed necessary.
Thank you. Were there any other questions in the chat box before we move on? I can't see it.
No, I didn't see any.
Okay, great.
Yes, I put a question in there.
What's the question?
My question was, can the association purchase uniform facial coverings for everyone so all of the crews can look alike?
That's definitely, thank you. That's definitely something we can consider. Again, all of these ideas, please email them to me. We're going to have a board meeting this week, and we're going to discuss, and like I said, over these next couple of weeks, putting together our own association kind of return to work plan. And so these are some great ideas. I actually put them in the chat box because we can print those out and see, so we can consider all of those. Again, some of these things will have some budgetary implications, but I think right now we'll put everything on the table as a way we want to ensure the health and safety of all of our officials. But we don't want to leave this in the hands of the state or the school district, because they don't necessarily always look out for us. We want to be, as an association, as a board, looking out for the officials ourselves collectively. So that's why we want to put together our own guidelines and things that we want. So definitely please email me, put them in the chat box, and we will definitely, when we put our, meet as a board this week, we will be discussing those items and definitely look into that, from the uniform and things that we may have to purchase. But it's definitely all things can be considered. Thank you for that. Any other questions come up? These are some good stuff.
Travell, can I just say one other thing?
Sure.
Okay, I just want to remind people, the school district, of course, every time they've talked about restarting the season, it's been the health and safety of everybody concerned, which is the student athletes, the coaches, and the officials. So that has always been at every single discussion that's been out there. So nobody will forget about you. Also, just want to remind people, this is the good and the bad of it. The press box might not have to be as crowded, because if there are no fans in the stands, or very few fans in the stands, some of those people who crowd into the press box have plenty of room to go into, may have plenty of room to go into the stands. You understand what I'm saying? That's not, I'm sure there's going to be some regulation on that. So that would give you a little more room in there to start with. Just some thoughts.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you. All right. All right, so we're just about ready to wrap up. Just some general reminders. Again, we thank those folks that have accepted to be on certain committees for this upcoming season. And if you're looking to be interested in being a part of any one of our committees, please email me your interest. We will be making those determinations this week. Please get connected to our social media, Twitter. We are at ECFOA Reps. And we do have a Facebook page, but we want to try to expand that page so we can be more active on our social media. Again, you can get access to our website with some of the information we've discussed. If you have any troubles with the website, please contact Mark. We're looking to, I know the question was asked about purchase officials. Whenever we have if we're able to get to a place where we have a, in-face meeting, that meeting we will definitely have purchase officials come out to. We're looking at maybe at some point in August, but we're definitely going to keep you updated to that, because at some point we will want to get together to some type of on the field training before we go back out there once the season starts. So we'll keep you updated on that. But again, if you want to, do not know at this time, I know you can order things online through purchase officials or call them and they'll be able to ship it out to you. I do not believe that their office is open, but again, you can contact them if you want to get some things purchased at this time. And finally, we're going to ask that all of our first and second year guys stay on the line. We just want to make sure we get your contact information. Our next meeting is scheduled for July 6th at 6:30. We are looking to have the FSAAA to come out. If not, we again will continue with what we normally do. But again, thank you for this time for everyone that has come out. If you make sure you put your name in the chat so you can get credit for this meeting. If you're phoned in and you're not able to put in, please, holler out so we can give you credit for it. But our next official meeting will be July 6th at 6:30 p.m. If your all hearts and minds are clear, we appreciate, hope this meeting has been beneficial. If you see some folks that's not on here, let me go back to.
Blessed be.
If you see some folks that are not here, please remind them that again to get involved in our meetings. All right. Thank you guys. Have a great evening. Thank you, Craigwood, for that serenade to get us close us out. But guys, have a good evening. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. First and second year folks, please stay online.
Well, keep your day job.
I don't know why my video doesn't work here.
Boy, stick to Hush.
I need thee.
Hey, would you let Cook?
Mr. President, can you mute him?
Yeah.
Hey, Travell, Jeff, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, any chance I can get a rule book if I'm the rules interpreter?
Yes. Yes, most definitely. You will make sure you get all the rules.
Have there been any new rules in the last 20 years?
What's that?
Have there been any new rules in the last 20 years?
We will see. We'll definitely see what happens. I'm quite sure there's been a couple. There's been a couple.
That Corey sent out. That's the rules. Jeff, really? Corey, you got to change something.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Let's see. Any person say this is who is that?
That's Kirkwood on the phone.
Oh, Lord. I can't.
It's like my computer.
I don't know how. I tried to mute him.
That's Sherry.
Be quiet now.
She left.
Yeah.
All right. So, do we have any first year officials
Where'd she go?
on here?
Roosevelt.
Second year.
Okay. John Thompson, is this your first year or did we meet you already? You look like you're in the witness protection program. You there, John?
I can't hear a word.
Why did she leave?
Yeah, Corey, I invited one of my coworkers, Jared Baker. He's on the line.
Hey, Mr. Baker, how you doing today?
I'm good. How you doing?
All right. What brings you to officiating?
My dad's a referee, so
okay.
Grew up around it.
Okay, so you do have some idea of what happens on the field. So
yeah.
All right. Well, welcome. We're gonna get you some training, get you out on the field, and get moving forward. I think you get out what you put in. So I think you'll enjoy it. Just come in. We'll get you some training, get you on the field. Once we find out what's going on with the season and get moving forward, we're kind of excited about what's to come. So just hang in there with us, and we'll keep pushing through. We'll get you the right training.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Real quickly, Jared and any of the new guys, make sure you guys go to the website to get registered with us. We're asking all of our new folks to get registered on the website. So if you can go to the website so we can have all your information. So go to the ECFOA.com. If you have any issues, Mark will be able to assist you. You have to create a login and then you will register locally on the website. So you'll be able to handle all of that. We want all of our new folks to go ahead and get that taken care of now.
I did that earlier.
Okay, great.
They sent me an email so I'm all set.
Oh, wonderful. Great, great.
All right. Also, for the newer officials, first timers, you guys that are on your second year or coming in from other associations, you know that you have to do all the sign-in requirements to test. So just keep that information in mind as we get down the line and find out what's happening with the season. We're going to continue to remind you guys to make sure you hit those deadlines because you don't want to miss out. Because if we miss those deadlines, you won't be able to officiate. So again, we'll be reminding you as we get further into the training and see what's happening. So if it seems like it's very repetitive, don't get aggravated. We just don't want you to miss out on the opportunity because it does happen. You know, this is something we're doing on top of everyday life. So things can sometimes get missed. So we're going to continue reminding you. We're also going to have a training curriculum for our first and second year people. You second year guys, some of it's going to be reminders so you can continue to add on. The new guys, like I said, we want you to be ready for any situation. Although we can teach you the book, I think your experience is gained once we start going out on the field. You start getting those snaps and seeing things happen on the field, and then you can relate what you learned in the book to things that are happening on the field, because the way the rule books are written, we don't always talk that way. So it doesn't make sense sometimes until you actually see some film or see things that are happening right in front of you. We're also going to have some questions and answers just to make sure we're all staying abreast of what's going on. If you guys come up with any questions, I think it's a great opportunity to ask those questions that you may be unsure of. We also have Mr. Arnett that's still here. We have our very own Hall of Fame, so I think he can offer you guys some words as well, words of encouragement or what to expect from officiating. Bernard, you still muted. All right. We can't hear you, but looks like you were trying to say something. At this, there you go.
Okay, gentlemen, ladies, yes, it's always good to add some new blood to the fold. The whole thing is, as Corey's already said, you're not going to get more out of it than you put into it. The key is that a lot of folks are going to give you good advice. A lot of people are going to give you not so good advice. You're going to have to dig in yourself, know the rules, know the mechanics, read up as much as you can, try to look at as much videos as you can. Sometimes of yourself or others that you think that's done well in the business. See some of the things that they're doing so that you can incorporate in your game. Become familiar with as many of the positions mechanically up front, unless you just know that you built for an umpire or built for a particular position, because the more flexibility that you have, the easier to be for why you have to say, hey, I need an umpire tonight, I need a back judge tonight. So the more you stay in there, and then as you start finding your niche, then you can specialize in one or the other. The key is that you have to be open to critiques. Make sure that you're taking it positively, because what happens if you're always defensive, people start giving you advice. When people start giving you advice, then they felt you've either plateaued or you're not receptive, and that's going to leave you likely stuck in a rut. Okay, so be open listen to all. People give you information. I say all information is good information. Some I want to use, some I choose not to use. Okay, but I think that it's a rewarding application, not so much as financial gain, but as to the people that you're going to meet. It's a lot of people in various walks of life, and when you walk away from this game, nobody's going to remember how many Super Bowls or what was the biggest game that you were. They're more so going to remember the type of character or the type of individual that you were. So if you come in, you take that approach to it, I think that you'll find that it's a nice, close-knit group, and it's rewarding camaraderie that you'll find. If I can help in any way, don't hesitate to hit me up, let me know, and I'll be more than happy to do so.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Bernard. Mr. President, do you have anything else?
Nope. As long as everyone is getting, take time to get connected to the website, and we should be good to go. I know you guys will get together with them we'll probably put a roster together so we can have, you can contact them, Corey, as maybe in a kind of a own separate email chain to let them know because there may be some additional dates besides our normal training sessions, I'm assuming, correct?
Yes. So just keep that in mind also, guys. Our first and second year officials, we'll have more meetings than the general membership meetings, just so that we can make sure we're touching on all the important points. All right.
Were there any
we have
questions?
some other senior officials. Mr. Holmes, any words? Okay. Ms. Green, anything for the new officials? I see. Yes, there's Mr. Holmes.
Yeah. James, I spell his last name ECFOA. Are you on? James, are you on?
It looks like he is. Jim DeFelice.
Yeah, Bruce had given me his information. I just want to make sure he got the information and he was able to take part in the night's training. That was it.
Okay. And I see Mr. Goodman's on there. He's one of our varsity officials. Any words of encouragement? Anything helpful?
Yeah, I just want to add that, I've had the luxury to officiate in quite a few states, and I must say that the diligence and the training that goes in here is really, taken from it, because these guys have done a lot of games, and it's very important, especially when doing 5-man, to know where you're supposed to be, and that's probably the most important part.
All right. Mr. Rules Interpreter, anything?
No, let me just offer my 70-year-old body, mind, and spirit to the association.
All right, thanks. Roosevelt?
Yeah, just like to welcome new officials. For Jared, just a quick story. Basically, his dad right now, he's an official with the Conference USA. I used to work on his crew in Broward County years back, but he works with me as a probation officer. So, and he came to me today and asked, said he's interested. So I think he'll be a good add to our association.
Great. Again,
Thank you, Roosevelt. We need as many new guys as we can. Thank you.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, again, if no questions, we're gonna get out of here. Again, if you have any questions or you think of anything, especially as a new official, you can email myself at brownc01@hotmail or our president, and we'll get you some answers and get you rolling. That's it for me, Travell. Any closing words there?
Well, you guys have a great evening. Thank you for your time. It's been another great day that we've had to share together. It's good to see everybody. I can't wait till we get back on the field. Have a great evening.
All right.
So long, suckers.
Stay safe.
Have a good night.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.